a deep dive episode celebrating the 20th anniversary. In fact, just a couple days, I think it came out on the 22nd of June, 20 years ago in 2001, The Fast and the Furious.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that. Look at that right there. Nothing screams 2001 quite like...
Give me my MP3 player.
Quite like, yeah, Vin
Go
Diesel.
on Napster.
And the obviously highlighted blonde streaks of Paul Walker.
How's Marky Mark not in this movie?
So yeah, we're gonna deep dive Fast and Furious here. The original, 20 years ago, the start of the franchise, in preparation for next Friday, the release of F9. Yes, they've now made 9 of them. Well, 10 if you count Hobbs and Shaw. And apparently they have 2 more to go. Tell us about Fast and Furious.
Well, Fast and Furious was in the early 2000s. There was like a new car movie craze with Gone in 60 Seconds, and then Fast and Furious, and then there was The Italian Job. Then there was like the one movie Torque that came out that was not a hit at all. Like this was like a new thing. It was like a throwback to the 70s when like all these movies were like the big thing. This movie is about Brian O'Connor, played by the late Paul Walker, and he is an undercover cop who is infiltrating this group of street racers, and because that's what this movie is about. It's about street racing. If you watched any of the other ones and not this one, you wouldn't know that, because it's not about some like superhero like international agents trying to save the world from terrorists and going to space and shit. This movie's about street racing, and it's a lot of fun. And I've probably seen it around 50 times, because this is the kind of movie that I watched a lot when I was like obsessing over Gone in 60 Seconds. I've seen this movie and the second one are the only ones I've seen more than once, but I have seen all 8 of them so far. And this is probably the best or second best one. Like the 6th one is the most self-aware, like ridiculous one. But this one it's a really fun movie, and it's really rewatchable. It's really quotable, and it's got some really cool stars at a young age who blossom into big movie stars after this, or maybe because of this. And yeah, I've always been a fan of it. I don't know why my star rating on our website says 2 stars. It says 3 stars on my rankings, so I'm not really sure where that came from.
I probably need to update mine too. I haven't even looked at it.
You said 1.5 stars, Terry.
Oh yeah, I need to update that. Yeah, this movie is just pure fun, and it shows the humble beginnings of this franchise. And yeah, you're right. It's a movie about street racing. That's really where this all started. Yeah, it came out at just that right, like that early 2000s was like the perfect time for, at least for Todd and I, and Zach, maybe you're on this too, of those movies just were the movies you watched a lot. And this one just always seemed to be on, and you always kind of watched it. And yeah, it came out same time as Gone in 60 Seconds. And I always felt these two were tied together in that way, because it felt like every day there was a double feature on TNT of Gone in 60 Seconds and The Fast and Furious. And it's kind of dumb at times, but you don't really care, because it's just fun, and the characters are fun, and the racing is cool, and I mean, this was like the epitome of cool in 2001. Zach, when did you watch this?
Yeah, so this was an interesting rewatch for me. I mean, you said that earlier in the podcast here. I keep thinking like it's not about the movie, but it's about talking about the movie or the experience of the movie. I mean, for me, this was like 2001, baby. You know, it's like, and I'm taking, my bus or my bike out to the Gateway Mall at Movies 12, seeing this movie for $1.50 because it's PG-13 and it's the only thing I could see when I was 13 years old. And yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars because I was 13 years old. So I don't know if I'd still give it 3.5 stars, but yeah, I mean, it was like a cool movie, and I feel like the Fast and Furious franchise represents all of filmmaking over the last 20 years. You got this cool concept, like Todd said, 100% agree, about street racing, okay? It is about Paul Walker. It is about Vin Diesel. I was surprised rewatching this movie how little actually racing and car chases there was in this movie. This is a character study, okay? And you got these fresh-faced actors. You got Michelle Rodriguez. You got Jordana Brewster. You got basically not overly polished cast, and it's not like the most expensive movie in the world. It's like a fun, stupid summer movie. Why did they have to make so many sequels? I mean, honestly, like that is the worst thing about this movie is now you can't watch it without thinking about how just grotesque and how just over the top this movie has been. There is no sequence in this movie that involves a car flying off a mountain and crashing into a helicopter, because this is not Grand Theft Auto. This is like a real movie. And so it was actually kind of refreshing watching this movie again. I was fully expecting to hate it and be like, oh my God, how could I have ever liked this movie? But rewatching it again, I mean, I'm not going to say necessarily that it holds up, but it is not what this franchise has become, which is, again, the excesses of the stupidity of modern filmmaking. So I like that this was unpolished, unglamorous before it got big, before it was a machine that destroyed filmmaking.
This movie was big, by the way, Zach. This wasn't an
but it wasn't like
movie.
I mean, it was. You're right. It was big, but maybe $50 million budget, $40 million. It wasn't like massive. It came out in the middle of the summer. It was like this. It was the start of something. It wasn't a franchise back then. And what's kind of interesting about the movie is that the two sequels, Too Fast, Too Furious and Tokyo Drift, were not very good movies. I mean, they weren't really critically acclaimed, and so they closed the door on the franchise until what? The one
Fast and Furious.
And Furious.
Fast and
Well,
Furious.
they realized, okay, we need Paul Walker and Vin Diesel.
That was the thing. So this had $38 million budget, and opening weekend in US and Canada grossed $40 million. That's pretty good. And then the worldwide gross ended up being $207 million.
Yeah, especially for a something that isn't a franchise already. Like it's
had no names in it. Like none of these people were like, unless you knew.
Well, Paul Walker had made The Skulls, and he had done a few things, but he'd never been the A-list.
So had Vin Diesel. I mean,
Vin Diesel was in
Saving Private Ryan, but he had
Saving Private Ryan
Boiler Room before this.
Yeah, Boiler Room, and then he had the first Riddick movie too.
Pitch Black. That was around there, and Triple X was probably right after this.
It was after this.
I remember when this movie came out, a lot of people thought this is basically a preview for Vin Diesel and Triple X. That was a movie that had bigger publicity than this. I mean, this was not a bit. Maybe my memory screwed up. I don't know, but like I don't remember this necessarily being a huge movie when it came out. It is nothing like it is today. It was not an event.
When the biggest names in your movie are Ja Rule and Buffalo Bill himself, Ted Levine, you are not sporting a very noteworthy cast at the time. Yeah, no, I agree, Todd. What you said is right. So the second movie was just Paul Walker, and it tried to fly with that. However, the second movie also brought Tyrese and Ludacris into the universe. The third one had none of them except for a cameo at the end from Vin Diesel.
But it brought in Han.
But it brought in Han. And I think Lucas Black is involved in them now too.
In some capacity, yeah.
Yeah, in some capacity. So yeah, and kind of fast forward to the end. I had written down as my LVP and MVP the reboot, because one, I think this is like one of the most successful reboots of a franchise ever, in how it took, like, the first film was awesome, and then the second and third like progressively sucked more and more. And then and then all of a sudden the fourth one comes around and they completely reshape this thing and revamp it. And I thought the fourth one was super cool because it's like, oh wow, you can take it this direction. That's really interesting. That actually works. And then they just kept going, which is why it's the LVP, because it shows what can happen with a franchise when you oversaturate it. And I mean, we'll see what happens with F9. But
well, what's weird is that they've progressively gotten better critical reviews and progressively gotten better box offices as they've gone along. That's why they keep making them. That's why they're going to keep making them. and there's going to be spin-offs. There already is a spin-off. There's going to be more. They're going to be like animated TV shows. It's going to be video games. It's going to be everything because people keep buying this shit, and critics are pushing it too. I'm not really sure why, because I think they've gotten worse as they've gone along, except for 6. 6 was awesome. Other than that, like pretty much everything after, like 4 was. 4 wasn't even that good, I don't think, but I don't know.
You touched on something, Todd. Now, I think the box office, I don't think that matters as much. I mean, that's ticket prices, that's inflation, that's whatever. But you're right. Why do critics like the sequels? I mean, we have a critic, so-called critic, on a major podcast, Big Picture podcast, that actually put one of the sequels in the top 10 of the decade. I mean, what are these people on? Like, what the hell? I don't understand it. But you're right. Why is it just that? Is it just that they want the hits? I mean, why do people like these movies? I don't get it. Is it because R.I.P. Paul Walker? Is it because of the song in Fast 5?
I think Furious 7 that the song was in.
7?
Yeah.
Whatever.
I think for what they are, they are fun. But I mean, it's like the perfect popcorn movies. And I think to a certain extent, Zach, what you mentioned about how this is really a character study, this first one, a certain level of that has maintained in that the reason why they work is because there are characters at the heart of it that you care about. And that was started with the groundwork that was laid in this first one. And,
so does that mean it's like the Earthbound version of Star Wars or something? Like an original property that has kept going and kept having spin-offs and movies keep coming out that get worse and worse, sort of, but people still are digging it? I mean, because we love the characters. I think that's not a terrible comparison.
That's not bad, I guess.
No,
yeah.
I mean, it's just the disease of more. This movie's a metaphor for when you have a good story and you got good actors, fresh faces, fresh talent, and a concept that maybe not everybody else is doing. I can't think of any other street racing movies in 2001. Like, yeah, you come up with something kind of cool. But then it's the disease of more. We got to add more and more and more. And we got to add a car flying into a helicopter. And we got to
This is, by the way.
Well, I don't know. It's a perfect
car doesn't miss
metaphor
the
for
boat
Hollywood.
in the second one, though.
No, it does not.
The second one I also low-key gave thumbs up to. And the third one.
Highest war performance in this movie here. Zach, I'm going to go to you first.
Obviously, Vin Diesel. Vin Diesel is, I know it's the low-hanging fruit, but I'm sorry. Vin Diesel makes this movie, okay? I think part of the charm of this movie is Vin Diesel was not a well-known entity. I know we've already kind of talked about that, but there is no, this is an A-lister role. He's the perfect age for it. He's the perfect, somewhat vague ethnicity for it, and he dominates the screen when he's in it. This is like young Marlon Brando. Okay, can I recast young Marlon Brando in this role? I mean, there are shades of Stanley Kowalski in it. I think it's a brilliant performance. It's one of his best work, and he's gravity, as Mia says. So to me, I think that is the highest war performance. I have a very hard time recasting that role, except for Charlize Theron, of course.
Yeah, I have Vin Diesel as well, and I think he's the only answer here because he is. Yeah, you're right. He is the movie. Has such a. The whole movie revolves around: is he believable as being this godfather of street racing? And he is. He has the charisma. He has the presence. He's able to be gravity, like it says, and actually it works. And if he doesn't work, the movie doesn't work. And he does. So it does. So
yeah, Vin Diesel is the easy pick because he's supposed to be like the villain, but he's too likable. He becomes some sort of like an anti-hero, which is why Xander Cage is the role that had to have been written for him because that is basically what he made this character into. And he has so much charisma. He takes what he did in Boiler Room but he's the head of this dangerous crew instead of this head of stockbrokers. Vin Diesel is perfect in the movie. The other one I was thinking about was Michelle Rodriguez because it's hard to be that badass of of a chick action hero, especially at that time. Like she was coming off Girl Fight, so she was like another like not known entity. But I think she's awesome in this movie, and there's a reason why they kept bringing her back, because she's an action star, and that they shouldn't have taken her out of the movies as soon as they did, I guess. But I had a hard time recasting her, because that's not, especially at that age, you don't get a whole lot of action stars from women.
Well, yeah, and that part just it fits Michelle Rodriguez like a glove too. It is so her.
The best compliment you could give that role is that Michelle Rodriguez could have played Hilary Swank's role in $1 Million Baby. Hilary Swank could not have been Letty.
Absolutely. Yep. All right. Well then, what's the worst performance then, Zach?
I'm going to have a tie. My tie is
You
Rob.
can't go tie. You can't take two people when you're the first to go.
Oh, I can't recast Charlize Theron either. What is there every freaking rule? I have to, geez,
mention
man.
one, and you can mention the other one at the end, since you're going first.
Fine, I'll go with Rob Cohen as the Pizza Hut delivery guy, but I also had Neil Moritz as the Ferrari driver. Anytime you got those writer directors who are making cameos, and these are two of the most obvious cameos imaginable for these writer directors, and Rob Cohen's an asshole. I mean, we can talk about that later, but it's just totally unnecessary, totally indulgent, and they take away from the scene. And they're not even well known enough to have cameos in their own goddamn movie. Is
Rob Cohen a notable person? Why are we supposed to know who he is?
He's the guy. He directed this. He directed Triple X. He was one of the producers of The Wiz back in the 70s. He worked at Berry Gordy's Motown Records. He is an asshole.
So you read a book about him? Like, what makes him an asshole?
Yeah, well, there were sexual assault allegations leveled against him on the set of Triple X. So he's been canceled, but he was a prominent producer for a long time in the 70s and 80s, and so.
Oh.
He's kind of been blamed for the reason Asia Argento never had really another role after Triple X.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I went with, first off, I think there are a lot of candidates for worst performance in this movie because some of the acting isn't necessarily what you would call stellar. So when I was coming up with who I was going to pick for this, as Goose would say in Top Gun, the list is long and distinguished. But I'm going to go with, I've got two written down. I'm going to go Paul Walker.
Oh.
I think Paul Walker,
wow.
Every line he delivers just feels like he's reading the line. I mean, R.I.P., but the dude was a horrible actor. He just had a pretty face and got lucky by getting dropped into this gold mine. There's a reason why the movies didn't work when it was only him, and it did work when it was only Vin Diesel. So
that's like choosing Patrick Fugit in Almost Famous.
It's a good
no, it's not.
It's a great comparison.
Well, and there's a scene where when they're eating shrimp at that one place, he's like, Paul Walker goes through an entire line, and then he stops like a word from the end, and then he repeats the whole line as if like he thought like, okay, I'm gonna do that again, and they kept it in the movie. He's like, I know there's no way in hell you pay for all the shit that's under the hood of those. I know there's no way in hell you pay for all the shit that's under the hood of those cars. I'm like, well, why do they keep that in? Like, or was that couldn't have been designed, but it was super corny, and that's why it's also a Patrick Fugit thing. Ask me again.
No. My favorite moment of Paul Walker in this is when they discover him in or when Vince discovers him like breaking into Hector's place and is like, I owe you a 10-second car, and in there he's got, and he goes through this whole list, and it's like, dude, this is the worst acting I have ever seen. I felt it then.
Wow.
It's still the case. Paul Walker. I mean, R.I.P. But
Paul
dude
Walker
was not a.
He was in some good movies. Todd, did you ever see Running Scared?
Yeah, it was
like,
an
that's
awful
a pretty
movie,
good.
but he was good in it.
He was good in it. Yeah, well, it wasn't an awful movie. But
yeah, it was. It was like one of the worst movies of that year. But yeah.
Oh, you didn't like the scene where he got the hockey puck in his mouth? That was compelling entertainment. He was not a bad actor, though. You know, The Skulls is not a bad movie, and I don't know. Was he in that football movie? Yeah, Varsity Blues. Yeah, he's not bad in that.
Takers with T.I.
Not a fan of him in this.
How about Flags of Our Fathers, Terry?
He was
That's a
good in
Terry
that.
movie.
He was
Yeah,
good in that.
exactly.
Yeah, it was not good in this.
The man could act. He'd also have a pretty face.
Yeah, he didn't show it in this. I'll say that. Todd, who's your worst performance?
I have Bo Holden as Ted, who is the guy who's Johnny Tran abducts and is asking where the engines are.
Yeah, he was pretty bad too.
Like
That's a better pick.
like even when he's getting like oil pumped into his mouth, he's like, in a warehouse, man. I'm like, why would he say it like that? Even just, like, I don't know. It was a bad performance, and it was a miscasting. I don't know. That guy looked like they just like tore him out of some like random office building. We're like, okay, say these lines.
Yeah, that one was pretty bad. My honorable mention for worst performance was Ja Rule, because I mean, the
Monica,
Monica.
Menage.
All right. Todd, you can go first on this one. Amazing Larry, Big Tim, High Roller.
It is R.J. Devira as Danny Yamamoto, because he's in the first race, and while everyone else is like pumping their nos or getting like mentally prepared for the race, or like Dom is like firing up his music, like he's sitting there playing Gran Turismo on his dashboard, and really badly at that. Like he like almost like
Really
he
badly
crashes into the wall. I'm like, oh, that takes me back. Seeing that old PlayStation 2 controller and watching Gran Turismo. But yeah, that guy, and then he obviously comes in fourth place. He even loses to Ja Rule. So, but he's awesome.
That's a great pick. That is a great pick. Zach.
My Big Tim High Roller award goes to Kevin Smith as the KJ Transport truck driver. Because listen, okay, the guy's got skill. He is operating a shotgun one-handed while driving the semi-truck. Not only is he operating it one-handed, shooting Vince off the truck, but then he switches hands and tries to shoot at Letty. That's impressive work. And I know they're going for the whole like duel thing, you know, the truck driver who's never seen, he's always kind of backlit. But we need to talk about the truck driver vigilante subplot in this movie. The whole reason why Brian is assigned to this case is because the FBI is concerned that the truck drivers are going to start kicking ass. And they are not happy with the idea of vigilante truck drivers. And I mean, what is this? Like freaking Hoffa, like the Irishman, like these truck drivers are going to... So, but then when you watch this truck driver operate the shotgun while driving, it's like, damn, maybe they got a point. So I'm going with Kevin Smith. He's also the director of Clerks. So obviously a multi-talented individual.
I think that should be like the villain of the 10th movie.
Mm.
The return of the truck driver.
Whatever happens to him.
I don't understand. Yeah, I don't understand their strategy either. Like, why don't they just like slam on their brakes or something? Like, they have shotguns. Like, what are they really worried about? Like, they could take out a couple of cars maybe, and then even if they're killed, like they're gonna get killed probably by the person trying to break into their truck. So why don't they just like slow down and like take them on or something? Like, I think their trucks are shot to shit after that. How are they gonna explain that to their boss? You know, I mean. I don't know. It makes no sense why they actually just keep rolling down the freeway at full speed to try to take these guys on.
My Amazing Larry, Big Tim High Roller, favorite minor character is Hector.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, he just kind of shows up and acts like he owns the place. Even though everyone defers to Dom, Hector still kind of acts like he owns the place. And, you know, half of it is attitude, and he's got it. And yet everybody loves Hector. And then as soon as I saw him, I was like, I started seeing him in everything. I remember when this came out. It's like after that, he popped up. That
I think
act
he had the
was
same name in Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, Noel Guglielmi. He pops up in like everything for the next 5 years, and every time I see him, it's like, hey, it's
oh my
Hector!
God, he's got like 30 movies in pre-production right now. He's like the Eric Roberts of pre-production. He's got a ton of shit. Shout out to Noel.
Yeah,
still kicking it.
So that's my favorite minor character. All right, Spider Stickman Award, and the Billy Bats douchebag. My Spider Stickman think that, but I'm going with the Ferrari guy. He's the stick man. I mean, because he obviously has
Wait,
has
Neil
one in the car
Moritz,
with
the
him.
writer of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
I mean, he gets smoked, but at the end of the day, he still has a Ferrari and a girl.
You
So
get smoked in more ways than one. Is that what you said?
ah! All right, Zach, what do you got?
I'm going with Glenn K. Ota as Johnny's father because, damn, there are a lot of kids at that table.
There are 3 stick men. I mean, obviously Edwin is a stick man. Like he was already banging Monica, and he was about to get a menage. Brian gets Mia just by basically going to order tuna for like a couple weeks, and then Dom, of course, because
Johnny Tran's sister.
Yeah, Johnny. Okay, yeah, that's a great. He's like, it's a long story, and he's like, well, we have a 20-mile hike. He's like, well, it was a business deal that went bad, and I banged his sister. And he's like, I was like, well, that pretty much covers it. Like, wasn't that long of a story, but plus obviously Letty, and like he does this thing like in that montage where they're arresting Johnny Tran. He like picks her up by her ass. I'm like, I've never seen that done ever again. I'm like, that's the most badass move to like, initiate the situation.
My wife was watching and she called that a top 5 sex scene of all time. Now that's impressive. I don't know if I'd go that far, but if we're getting the female standpoint in, it got some points that way, I guess.
It's awesome. He like picks her up by her ass. Like I've never seen that done before.
It is impressive. All right, Billy Bat's douchebag. I'll go first on this one. My pick for the Billy Bat's douchebag is Agent Bilkins. Just because he's just trying to ruin everything, and yeah, sometimes you need patience in this stuff, and he refuses to have it. And every time he's on screen, he's just like bashing Brian and everything that they're doing, and yeah. And then Tanner has to come along and be like, all right, I know he's a douchebag.
Well, what about the other agent in the room too? He's the one that like Brian actually shoves to the ground.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is a really hilarious scene because he shoves it from one angle and then it cuts the other angle and all you see is him just like plop on his back. And then the scene like everyone stops. It's like, okay.
I think we need some more FBI guys. That's just what I'm going to say about it. All right, Todd.
There's a lot of douchebags. The one that I'll say is Reggie Lee as Lance Wynn. Because, he's always a douche, regardless of what movie he's in. That guy's in a lot of things, and he's always a douche. And he gets slugged by Letty, at least, at Race Wars after the fight breaks out, which he probably deserved, but like...
All right, Zach.
You guys are missing the obvious one, and that is Vince, played by... one of my trivia questions was going to be, can you name the actor who plays Vince? I don't think you can.
Matt Schultz is his name.
Yeah, and one of the wise decisions they made in this movie is to not bring him back. Although
he does come back.
Does he come back? I haven't seen Fast and Furious 6.
He comes back in Fast 5 in Brazil.
Yeah, he shows up again.
Nice. I think
Leon never does show up again.
Yeah, I have something to say about that.
Okay.
Conspiracy theory. The thing that's most douchey about Vince is that after he has totally abandoned Dom, right? And I mean, all of them have, and they've all gone to the party. And what is Vince doing? But he's rocking out on the guitar, and his guitar playing is the most objectionable, douchiest element of his character. Clearly,
he was playing it like Spider.
Anyway, that's the low-hanging fruit.
It is. Well, and everyone treats him like a douche also. I mean, everyone is like, you are a douchebag. Like the whole scene where Mia's like, what was that restaurant you were going to take me to? Oh yeah, cha-cha-cha. Like, oh, that's the one you can take me to, Brian. I mean, that's like, yeah, you're a douchebag. Everybody knows it. And I'm going to put you in your place.
Make your own goddamn popcorn.
I almost feel like Vince could have been played by Nicolas Cage because I really want Nicolas Cage to say the word cha-cha-cha That sounds like Nicolas Cage vocabulary.
Oh yeah.
But why do they even try to save his life? Obviously, Brian tries to save his life to get an in with Dom because of the whole family dynamic. But why do any of the other characters care about him? Let him die. That's a flaw with the movie.
But here's an interesting thing about Vince, though. Vince is a douchebag. He's an idiot. He goes off the rails so quickly, but he's the only one that has it right. He's the only one that from the start is like, Brian's a cop. Brian's a cop. Stop. Brian's a cop. Brian's a cop.
But he's an asshole when doing it. Like, he's not. If it was anybody else that said it, Dom would have listened. But because Vince was doing it like a jackass and was fighting him in the street over a sandwich, I think it was like, okay, not a
Nobody
reliable
likes the
source
tuna here.
Yeah, go to Fat Burger. You get cheese and fries for $2.95. The most lame product placement ever. Another douchebag I had was David Douglas as the Rasta driver, who's the guy that races against Letty.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one, too.
Yeah, because I don't know, he pretty much like degrades her for being a woman. Really douchey thing to do.
It is. What's the best scene in this movie?
I think the first street race. I mean, when you got the animations and that kind of really clumsy 2001 CGI, you got all the characters there. My favorite thing about the street race is that they go on the street race and then somehow inexplicably the whole crowd is also there at the end of the race. It's like, no, they didn't go in a circle. How do they get down there faster than the freaking cars? Okay. I think that
wasn't at the end. At the actual finish line, there were like 2 people there, but then they drove around. That's because Brian like spins out, and then they well later he comes back around to the start again.
Oh, that's a good point. I hadn't thought about that.
Lost me. Okay, I'll go with it.
My flaw with the first street race is how does a 10-second quarter mile take 2 minutes?
Yeah, I mean that too.
I don't think they were going a quarter mile on that one. Yeah. That was like a going all the way across Vice City like race.
No, I live my life a quarter mile at a time. It was quarter mile. They only race quarter miles, right? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. In one of them, and I think it may be in the third one, they go and they actually loop around.
All right. Well, back to the topic at hand. Best scene in the movie.
Yeah.
Todd, why don't you go next?
Well, Zach kind of just mentioned it. It's that first scene at the house, because that scene's awesome. The way it like from what they're coming off of, they like show up in a taxi, and then like he goes to every one of them and he treats them in their own individual way about like why, like he without saying anything, he just like looks at them and like they know like you really screwed up for not coming to get me. Until he gets to Vince, of course. He's like, and then he asks if that's your beer or not, which I've always thought, like, why does that Corona have to be Vince's beer? Like, the whole house is filled with only Corona. Why is that one Vince's beer? And he has to enjoy it. I always thought that was weird. And you're like, cause the Buster kept me out of handcuffs. And like the whole
Buster came back for me.
Yeah. Yeah, the Buster brought me back. And I mean, and then like the whole thing kind of just like flows through almost like a scene in Boogie Nights or something. Like you get to see every character in that scene doing their thing. And
2 chicks randomly making out.
Yeah.
For no reason.
And that's why Dom didn't want to give her a massage, because he's like, look at all our guests. So that he doesn't even know.
So I've got so for my best scene, I've got 2 things written down. First is post race of the first race, when you truly see the magnetic personality of Dom, when he's just telling off Brian for how he ran that race, and I mean that's that moment like, dude, this guy really is a god in this culture here. And Todd, I'm surprised you didn't say your favorite minor character was like every person standing behind Dom as he's going around the circle there, and their overreactions to everything he says. Because we've always talked about how that is ridiculous and amazing.
That's right.
Oh man!
Well, they do that with Monica telling off Ja Rule too. Like
they do.
Like,
they do.
Oh!
And the other one, I mean, it's all Vin Diesel scenes. The other one is the introduction to the muscle car, and him telling the story about his dad and how he ended up in prison. That's showing who. I mean, that's Vin Diesel showing off why he's the right person for this role. Okay.
And why he can play a tree eventually.
Yeah. Why he can eventually be Groot. So the next category we usually do is if there were a sequel.
Oh God, if there was ever a movie to never do that category for.
I would ask what's the best sequel, but like I said, I can't tell them apart. I don't remember which one's which. Todd already said his.
What?
What was your favorite sequel?
Oh yeah, 6.
6, yeah. I've seen them all, but like I said, I can't remember.
If there was a prequel with Brian and Roman from Too Fast, Too Furious, I think that'd be pretty cool.
That would be cool. Is 6 the one with Jason Statham?
That is the first one that he shows up. Yeah.
And he shows up again in 8, right?
Yeah, because he's somebody's brother. I don't know. The details are a little hairy.
Yeah, he's the brother of the bad guy from like the 4th one. I think. I don't know.
No, I think it's from
the 5th one. Then it's a very like Gruber family moment of when Jeremy Irons shows up in Die Hard with a Vengeance. What? All right, then let's go on to flaws, outdated, and conspiracy theories. Todd, it sounds like you have some conspiracy theories.
Well, I just want to know what happened to Leon, which could be a sequel that we never get, because I don't know if he's ever going to show up again, because Dom says, or like Brian's like, where's Letty and Leon? And he's like, well, they're long gone. Well, apparently they're not that long gone, because Letty comes back and then dies and then comes back again. Like, where the hell is Leon? Like, I know he just showed up one day and then he's gone one day, and I guess Jesse died, so maybe they were buddies to begin with, but still, like, I want to know what happened. Like, Vince comes back. Like, Leon was one of my favorite characters, you know? He tells the pizza man off, you know, like, hey, pizza man, find another way home. You know? And I mean, they show up one day and leave one day. They're just like Barry and Dick. I thought that too. That's a little conspiracy theory. But I don't know. I want to know what happened to that guy and why they haven't, like, they have brought back so many people. They haven't brought back Ja Rule or Leon. Those are the only two.
Well, and I was looking at he was played by Johnny Strong, and I was looking at his IMDb page, and it said he had an uncredited role in Fast 5 and was involved in flashback scenes in Fast and Furious 6. Yeah. I think what's going to happen is you're going to get to a point where everything is like about to end, and then all of a sudden he comes in and saves the day, a la Han Solo in the first Star Wars movie.
See, it is Star Wars. I'm telling you, this is the Earthbound Star Wars.
He's been stalking Dom the whole time, and then he just pops up and let's blow this thing and go home. Yeah. All right. So my question is, I want to know what happened to the diner. Like, the first time we see Dom is he's like running a diner and Mia is the waitress. What happened to the diner? Like, we never see it again. The house, the house is like the one thing that endures from the first movie, that sticks around.
They're running a garage in a diner, and they never go back.
Never. They never go back. Nobody else ever orders tuna again.
Without crust.
Yeah, without the crust.
Well, they're hardly ever in LA anymore either.
That's true. That's true. But they always end up back in the house. I also found it really funny that Vince was going to walk away forever, but a man's got to eat. So it's like, I would have left, but damn, that barbecue chicken's good. It looked really good too. It did.
He already put the barbecue sauce on it, and then he was yelling at Mia to give him the dry rub. And I'm like, well, you can't do both. Like, did you figure that out before?
Is that a real thing where the person who grabs the food first has to say grace? That feels like it's a real thing. That feels like a very authentic detail. I thought that was going to be a trivia question. How many or what things does he think the heaven or the heavenly
that would have been a tough one. That would have been a tough one. Your heavenly
the
spirit
injections and something.
Yeah. Overnight parts from Japan. Zach, you got anything you want to mention?
Yeah, I'm very curious about the house that the FBI is in, that Eddie Fisher built for Liz Taylor.
I thought that was going to be a trivia question.
I thought it was too, yeah.
What is that? Was that just some like winking at the camera by the screenwriter? Like, why isn't this just at FBI headquarters? Why do they have to have it at this house? And they're all having iced cappuccinos. They're not drinking coffee. It's like these very specific details that this asshole writer wanted to add in the screenplay.
Are you talking about David Ayer, the writer?
Well, or Neil M. Moritz.
No, David Ayer. The reason why the movies suck after this is because he wasn't involved in any other ones.
It just seems like an oddly specific detail about the house. The DVD and digital camcorders, I love it. That's my favorite part of the movie. Watching it in 2021, that these DVD players would be worth more money,
and like the 30-inch TVs.
Yeah, the little like plasma TV.
There was like a 12-inch TV VCR combo in that truck, man.
And that's worth risking your entire life for, all right? In spite of the fact that you routinely blow $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on these cars, but you're going to stake your whole life, your whole reputation, your whole operation on illicit DVD players that are being stocked in trucks.
You know how expensive that shit was? It was really expensive to buy a DVD player.
In 2001? No, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
I had a DVD player back in 2001. It wasn't that. I mean, it was a little. It was maybe $40 or $50, but it wasn't outrageous. It wasn't worth risking your entire life to try to illegally transport across state boundaries. You know.
I mean, I cut like maybe 1,000 of them. That's a lot of money.
Whatever. I also thought it was Michelle Rodriguez and Jordana Brewster look uncomfortably similar in this movie. I thought Jesse's death was a blatant ripoff of Ricky's death in Boys in the Hood. I don't understand why they have to steal anything. I feel like they're doing just fine with their their car shop and their restaurant. Like, why?
Obviously, they're not.
I mean, really? They seem to be doing just fine.
Nobody was in that diner.
There's no big last score, you know. And I thought the soundtrack felt very Madden 2002. And then my big conspiracy theory is that the guy who killed Dom's dad was actually Nicolas Cage in Willy's Wonderland because he was a janitor.
Brilliant.
I like it. All right. LVP, MVP. I talked about mine earlier on. So let's go Zach next.
I guess my MVP is David Ayer, because if Todd is right and he wasn't part of the sequels, then he's the reason that this movie is good. And God knows that guy has suffered a lot in the last few years. So let's give him some recognition on this podcast. David Ayer, shout out. Once made some great movies, and
Training Day.
Maybe he'll End of Watch. Maybe he'll come back. Fury. We love David Ayer on this podcast. Always welcome as a guest. And my LVP in this movie, Rob Cohen, because he's an asshole.
Much established. All right, Todd.
Well, the LVP is the undercover philosophy of the LAPD. I really don't understand what they were trying to accomplish with Brian, and like their strategy made no sense to me the more I saw the cops.
Well, think about everything would be thrown out in court. Like, what court of law would hold up what he does in this movie? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
And then and they were like, I mean, I don't care if you put a gun to his head and blow your cover to smithereens. Like, that's a good thing to say. And my MVP, I mean, I could say Paul Walker and Vin Diesel because they kept this thing going for so long, but I'll say the stunt team because there are a lot of really awesome stunts and car chases.
That's a good call.
Including the whole Vince sequence. Like, that thing looks awesome. I don't know how they shot it, but that thing looked really cool when he's stuck to the truck.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Well, and there's some stuff that you can't fake that they had to be doing too.